Keri Logosso-Misurell is Executive Director of Winona's House. Good to see you, Keri.
Same
Keri,
here.
welcome.
Thank you.
I do not want to assume that everyone knows what Winona's House is, so tell everyone.
Sure. Winona's House is the designated child advocacy center for Essex County. We're located in Newark, and we treat child victims of sexual abuse and serious physical abuse throughout the county.
And named after?
Senator Winona Lippman, who was our legislative champion and hero.
And a historic figure in the state of New Jersey.
Amazing. She was the first African-American female senator and the longest-serving member of the legislature when she passed.
Yeah.
And when you say you treat these kids, what does that mean?
So we have an amazing on-site partnership of the Essex County Prosecutor's Office, Newark Police, DIFUS, and Newark Beth Israel Medical Center. And all those
in one
partners,
building?
yep, all the partners are on site. And so what we do is we provide an interview for the child instead of the child having to go to the police station. And then we line up a medical exam on site. We have 2 medical exam rooms that are painted with child-friendly murals. And we also do a mental health exam, where we then line up mental health services to treat the child and often the caregiver so they can support the child. And we provide other family supports throughout the process.
You know, obviously, Winona's House, for those who follow the political process, the governmental process, and trying to know that your organization was caught up a while back in a budget discussion, let's say,
Yes.
And ultimately which was resolved. But it's resolved on a year-to-year basis. There's no long-term government funding, if you will.
Dedicated.
That's correct.
So in many ways, your organization, a nonprofit, like our production company, the Caucus Educational Corporation, a nonprofit, has to rely on private funding.
Right.
How much of your time is spent raising private dollars, corporate grants, foundation grants, to deal with the problems that your organization deals with?
It's, well, increasingly more of my time is spent with that part of my job. And it's tricky because there is definitely a government responsibility to protect the children who are victims of child sexual abuse and physical abuse. So you definitely need the government partnership. But as you pointed out, some of the commitments have been pulled back and been restored on a short-term basis. And so we look to corporations, foundations, and now increasingly individual donors to fill that gap. But these are the same people who are being solicited and requested for support from everybody.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, what, in public television, it's hard enough to sell, if you will, your product or to pitch and convince people. How do you sell it? What is the sell? Are you talking about children who are sexually abused, physically abused?
Right.
The word sell, obviously, I feel uncomfortable even putting the two in the same sentence, but how is it that you move people to write a check?
So one thing about our issue is that it's highly stigmatized, so people don't want to talk about it, they don't want to think about it.
Never thought of
and
that.
a lot of the individual donors who are parents themselves can't fathom the types of abuse that we're talking about, and
What
nor
are we
should they
talking
have
about,
to.
by the way? Put it on the
Sexual
table.
assaults that range from oral sex to rape, child victims who range from infants to 18.
Infants to 18.
Infants to 18, children who have contracted sexually transmitted diseases because of the assaults that they've suffered, physical abuse as severe as broken bones, burns, repeated injuries, and then on the witness to violence and we've seen child victims who have witnessed maternal homicides, so very serious domestic
And
violence.
are these children referred to you by the police, by law enforcement?
Yes, our cases all come through local law enforcement, through our Essex County Prosecutor's Office, and through DIFUS, our New Jersey Division of Youth and Family Services. So it is a difficult topic to broach, and
But what I don't understand is, why do you depend on private funding for this? It just seems it's the police who refer them to you.
Right.
All agencies of government work with you. Why then are you don't have a dedicated source of funding?
You're singing the same.
But what's the argument
You're in
that's
the choir,
given
is
to
what
you?
Right, you're in the choir.
What is the argument given?
Just diminishing resources in the government. So they have competing needs. And I guess with us, what was tricky was, we mentioned Senator Winona Lippman, who was our legislative champion. She unfortunately passed away before
Is there a
she saw us
legislative
open.
champion?
So there has not been one of her stature, really. And what happened when the organization opened was there was a commitment to have a legislative line item, if you will, and it was a legacy and a tribute to her and to the hard work she did for 3 decades. But that has been pulled. So here we are. We already are in a building that we own. We already have all the partners, and we own it with a big mortgage, I should say, so most of the funding, most of our daily operating dollars go to supporting the infrastructure where the partners can work. And so here we are already established, the partners are on site, which is great. At the same time, funding has been pulled back and the certainty of our existence has been shaken.
By the way, your website's been up, right, Joanna? The website's been up throughout the entire segment.
Thank
If
you.
people choose to, we're not here to raise money, but if people choose to find out more, I'm sure they can contribute in
Thank
that way
you.
as well. I want to ask you in the time we have left, what is the prospect for these children long term, particularly those who do not get the service they need, Keri?
So the prospect for children who don't get the services is grim because untreated trauma manifests itself in a lot of other ills. Dysfunctions, alcoholism, you have drug addiction, promiscuity, suicide. The Centers for Disease Control have an adverse childhood events study that's been going on for 17 years documenting this well. However, the children who do get our services have a brighter future. Their resiliency is amazing, stabilizing the family does wonders, and the outcomes are good.
Keri, you've joined us many times, and I assure
you.
you that this will not be the last time.
I appreciate
You're
it.
doing important work, and I know you're out there raising money all the time, and that hopefully this exposure will bring more attention to the issue. Thank you, Keri.
Thank you so much.
Keri
Thank you.
Logosso-Misurell, Executive Director, Winona's House. Thank you very much. That is it for this particular edition for Capital Report from my esteemed colleague, Rafael P. Romano. I'm Steve Adubato. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next week. Thank you, Keri.
Thank you.
Stay right there. It's constant.